And today in this video, we're going to be doing a battery drain test between the new 2022 third generation iPhone SE and the two previous iPhone SE models, being the 2020 second generation iPhone SE and the 2016 first generation iPhone SE. And before we get started, it's very important that I mention that a very large factor that contributes to how your battery life is going to be is the condition of the battery in your device. And it's particularly important that I mention that in this type of video when I'm comparing older iPhones to newer ones, as most people who are using devices like the iPhone SE first generation probably have a battery that's been through several charge cycles and that's been used for several years, like 4 or 5 years of usage. And the same thing to a lesser extent could be said about the second generation iPhone SE users as well, just because these devices have been out for a few years. Now, all three of the devices that we're using in this video have batteries that are in good condition, just to create a more level playing field. As if I were to use any devices with batteries that had been through several charge cycles and several years of consistent usage, I think that would be totally unfair, as it would throw off the accuracy of the test. So as always, just keep in mind that the battery performance of any device can vary quite a bit depending on the condition of the battery in the device. Also, True Tone, Night Shift, and Auto Brightness are disabled on all three of these devices, as you can see. They're also all running the latest version of iOS 15 as of recording this video, and the brightness on all three of these devices is set as close to the same as I could get using a lux meter for reference, and the volume is turned down on all of them. And alright, let's go ahead and kick things off as usual with 1 hour of YouTube video streaming. So we're going to load up the very same YouTube video on all three of these devices, and we're going to stream it once again for an hour at 1080p quality. And after 1 hour of YouTube video streaming, checking in, as you can see, all devices actually performing very similarly so far, just a few percentage points apart, and no surprise with the third generation iPhone SE in the lead. Next, we're going to move on to 1 hour of Instagram. First 10 minutes, we're going to be looking through stories on Instagram, and for the remainder of the hour, we'll be scrolling through Instagram posts containing both photo and video posts. And something else that I also think is very important to mention in this type of video is that there's always a variety of varying factors that contribute to how your battery life is going to be. And after a full hour of Instagram checking in, as you can see, all devices are still relatively close to each other. Of course, it is straight down the line in terms of generations, with the iPhone SE third generation in the lead, followed by the second, followed by the first. And with all devices performing pretty good so far, we're going to move on to 1 hour of playing Minecraft. And quick note, the render distance setting for all three of these devices in the Minecraft settings is set to 8 chunks. And basically this setting determines how far out into the game is going to be rendered out when you're playing it. Now, the default render distance on the iPhone SE second and first generations were set to a slightly lower amount, I assume just to make them perform a little bit better in the application. But of course, for this test, again, to keep things as fair as possible, I moved them up to 8 chunks to match the iPhone SE 3, so they're all on the same render distance setting. But alright, let's just go ahead and get into the game here and play for an hour. And checking in after a full hour of playing Minecraft, as you can see here, the iPhone SE third generation is starting to show a little bit of a more noticeable lead at this point in the test after Minecraft. But all in all, I'm actually pretty impressed by the performance of all three of these devices so far. Next, we're going to move on to 1 hour of web browsing. For the first 30 minutes, we're going to be loading new web pages and scrolling through web pages on apple.com, and for the second 30 minutes, we're going to be doing that on theverge.com. And alright, after a full hour of web browsing, checking in, the same overall trends are continuing, of course, straight down the line of generations, with the SE third generation in the lead. But once again, I can't help but be impressed by all of them. The iPhone SE second generation, and especially the iPhone SE first generation, still going strong with 30%. Next, we're going to play Subway Surfers for 30 minutes. And after 30 minutes of Subway Surfers, the third generation iPhone SE is at 45%, the second generation SE is at 28%, and the first generation SE is at 17%. So with the same overall trends continuing, we're going to move on over to Temple Run for 10 minutes of playing the game, with ads appearing in between each round. And after that, the iPhone SE first generation is getting pretty low at 9% now, while the second and third generation iPhone SEs continue to go strong, of course, with that third generation in the lead. Next, we're going to head on over to PUBG for 1 hour of playing the game. And similar to what I mentioned with Minecraft, I set the graphics and frame rate settings for PUBG to the exact same on all three of these, being HD for graphics and high for the frame rate. Once again, on the iPhone SE second generation and first generation, they were set set to lower amounts by default. But again, I just want to make this as even as possible. So again, they're all set to the high and HD, just like the iPhone SE 3rd generation was set as default. But all right, let's just go ahead and get into a match and play for 1 hour. And 5 hours and 1 minute into the test, the iPhone SE 1st generation dies. And just about 25 minutes later, the iPhone SE 2nd generation also dies at 5 hours and 26 minutes into the test. And with the iPhone SE 3rd generation being the only one left standing, we're going to go ahead and close out the remainder of this hour of PUBG. This leaves the iPhone SE 3rd generation with 20%. So pretty impressive performance on the iPhone SE 3rd generation so far. And with the first round of the battery test complete, we're going to head back to YouTube for another hour of video streaming. Once again, the exact same video, 1080p quality for another hour. And checking in, this leaves the iPhone SE 3rd generation with 10%. So we'll move on to our second scheduled hour of Instagram. Once again, for the first 10 minutes, we'll be looking through stories, and for the remainder of the hour, we'll be scrolling through posts. And checking in after the second hour of Instagram, the iPhone SE 3rd generation has 1% remaining. So we're going to head over to Minecraft for our second scheduled hour, and 7 hours and 48 minutes into the test, the iPhone SE 3rd generation dies. And there you guys have it for the final results. Personally, I came away from these results being very impressed on account of all three of these devices. And I just want to mention once again, this is a hyper-controlled test environment, so you should definitely keep in mind that in the real world, of course, things will vary all over the place. And again, the condition of the battery in your device is also another very important factor that determines how your battery life is going to be, and of course also just how you use your device. But alright everybody, that just about wraps it up for this video. If you guys use any of these devices, let me know down below in the comments section how the battery performance has been for you. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.